Yeah, I just saw that James Lipton passed away.
Yeah. My wife, my wife gave her credit because, like, she texted me because we text each other about the deaths. So she texted me and said James Lipton died, and then mentioned something about his questions. And it was interesting how she went from sad news to heartwarming.
Yeah.
Because it was a nice remembrance. And so what I posted on Facebook was, because that made me instantly think of his last question, which was, if God exists, what would you like to hear him say when he meets you at the pearly gates? And so that instantly I thought of that. So I put up, James Lipton died. I wonder what he heard when he met God at the pearly gates.
Yeah.
And so then my wife and I got into a big old theological discussion. She being the very observant Catholic, and me being the agnostic Jew, which bothers her sometimes. Not the Jewish part, but the agnostic part. They say, I'm not an atheist Jew. Okay?
There's a difference.
I question, I wonder, I doubt sometimes, but I don't. I certainly don't spit in the face of anything. And, at the moments when I'm believing, I tend to sit there and go, but the universe is a big place, and God's kind of busy, and I'm just a speck. So I understand, not getting me that voiceover job.
Yeah.
I've never been a big fan of, God helped us win, because, of course, me being the guy who always tries to find the little holes in things, I sit there and go, yeah, and obviously God hated the other team, right?
Yeah.
That's not fair, so I'm not a fan of when athletes do that.
Yeah, for sure.
And there are ways I think to thank your higher power without saying, that we were chosen to win the game.
Yeah.
There's a way to say, hey, if it weren't for my higher spiritual power, I wouldn't be alive today. It's just like thanking your parents, for bringing you into the world.
Yeah.
I just, my only thing about awards and thanking people is I wonder why any actor who ever wins an award for anything that isn't live,
Yeah.
I don't understand why they don't thank the editor, if not first. Certainly in the top 3.
Oh yeah, especially with comedy.
Drama. How about if the editor holds too long?
That's also
the
true.
scene feels
Feels
awkward,
off. Yeah.
or chooses the wrong take, or whatever.
Yes.
It's like you do video games, you do 17 takes of something,
And if you do it wrong, you die.
But they pick one, and you don't know which one it is. It's like everything we do there is always 2 or 3 takes.
Yeah.
And I certainly don't give them 2 takes of the same thing. Why do that? They got it.
Yeah.
Unless they say, give me one for safety, then I'll give them something that's close to that.
Yes.
If not the exact same thing for safety.
Yes.
But if it's getting another take, I'm going to give you options.
Yes. No, that makes sense.
One of the things I say about voiceover, especially in anime and in video games, is a bad performance can be made up of 1,000 brilliant takes.
That's true.
Each individual take, you hold it out under the sun and look at it glisten, and it's gorgeous and it sounds beautiful.
But
and
it doesn't always
so much
match.
emotion, but it doesn't fit the scene.
Yes.
Okay, or
I've seen that.
Or each one of these brilliantly delivered lines is the same.
Yeah.
So when we stack them on top of each other, instead of looking, like this MC Escher sort of a thing that's stacked on top of each other and has jagged edges sticking out and peaks and valleys, instead of this crystalline thing, we now have a tower. We have this straight, and it's like, that's all it is. No emotion, no life. And each individual line is brilliant.
Yeah.
But it's a robot of brilliance. It doesn't work. That's why I've come to the religious point in voiceover where I say if you hear good voiceover, it's good direction.
Yeah. That's true.
You know, I've been in enough video games where I never work with the other person who's in the scene with me.
But it sounds like they're right there.
And then you watch the cinematics on YouTube, you know, and you sit there and go, holy cow, how are we not in the same room together?
It's true, because they don't even feed you the other person's lines. You know, you
Yeah,
can't get to
and
react
it's like,
off
and
that.
that's not patting myself on the back.
Yeah.
You know, or even patting the other actor on the back. That's totally giving the credit to the director.
Yeah.
You know, it's like one small thing is off, and you know, the who, what, when, where, why of the scene, and suddenly it doesn't match.
No.
You know,
That's happened to me before. I've seen that where it's like, ooh, you're playing a game and you're like, oh, cool. And then it's like, oh, it's not syncing correctly.
Right. And that, you know, it's like, no disrespect to anybody involved, but there's this legend, there's this story out there, and I don't play games, so I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But about in the original Destiny that Peter Dinklage, a brilliant actor, was not very good in the game.
I've heard that as well.
Okay, now I refuse to believe that that's because
he's a bad actor.
Right.
He's a great actor.
Or incapable of doing what was needed to be done.
He just wasn't directed the way he probably should have.
And that could have been because the director was like trusting, well, this is Peter Dinklage. He knows what he's doing. He doesn't need me to.
Yeah.
He does need you to adjust him. If he's performing a Bullwinkle cartoon and you're making, you know, Chekhov's Three Sisters and they don't match up in energy.
Yeah.
You know, he could be doing a brilliant Bullwinkle cartoon, but it doesn't fit. Yeah. And he doesn't know that. It's not like you come onto the set and see
what's happening.
You don't see the other actors. You don't see oh, well, look at the set. I can tell by the hyper realistic nature of the set design that what I was doing, the cartoonish nature of what I prepared or what I thought I was doing, isn't going to fit here.
Yeah. Well, and in video games, they don't give you the dialogue either for what the other character's doing most of the time.
Many times they don't. And again, for that to work, you know, now the actor has to be able to pick that weight up and transport it.
Yeah. Make a choice, give them 3 different takes. Yeah, like you
mentioned.
mentioned.
Or at least take that direction and give them something in the ballpark that ends up with a little bit of life that they can sew together. You know, so it's not like I am an empty vessel.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm certainly participating.
Have you ever worked with a director that kind of threw you off, you think? Or like, did you ever have like a challenging situation that you had to like switch?
Absolutely. But I'll tell you, and I can get intense sometimes and get in a little bit of trouble for my emotionality. Not that I throw temper tantrums, but apparently I have like a resting bitch face or whatever that just like can cut through aluminum. I'm not going to say steel because it ain't that good.
Yeah.
But I concentrate on stuff, and some people mistake that for anger. And it's like, no, I have this habit when I'm getting notes from a director that I don't look at them. I look at the script, because a lot of what I do is I like picture the scene in my mind. You know, I play the movie in my head, whether it's from the third person or first person. It varies depending on the day or whatever.
And looking at the director pulls away from that.
For me, and that's not to say for anybody else, but I'm like, I'm taking their note, I'm listening, and I'm looking at the script, and I'm taking it in, and and I'm like almost running the scene. The only thing that I really don't like directors to do is, please don't tell me what I did wrong, because I have the kind of brain that will lock onto that information.
Yeah.
And it's not the ego thing.
Yeah.
You know, I was working on a video game with a director who, in fact, is actually a friend of mine, and he had a habit of doing that. And I eventually one day said, do me a favor, please stop telling telling me what I'm doing wrong. Just tell me what you need. Tell me what to do to make it right.
Yes.
You know? And I've gotten over the egotistical nature of resisting line readings.
I was going to say, this kind of parlays into line reading. Like, is that...
Hey, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I've come to the point that I realize, and I really need to look this up at some point because I keep referring to it, but Seurat is the guy that did the dots, the paintings with all the little dots and whatever. I believe
Pointillism.
I believe that was Seurat. I am the blue dot. I might look over and see the green dot and go, what is the green dot doing there? But I'm not standing far enough away from the picture to see the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I've come to the point where I trust my director that they know the overall picture. I was doing something once, and another actor was doing what I, in my mind, judged to be a bad impression of somebody. And, the eager part of my brain sat there and went, I do a better impression of that than that. And then the rational adult part of my brain said, maybe that's exactly what they wanted.
Yeah, maybe
they didn't want a perfect impression. Maybe this person can do a perfect impression. So if you go over and say anything, A, you're throwing another actor under the bus.
Yeah.
You're possibly impugning their talent. You're chastising the production staff without knowing what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
You have a job, Neil. Relax. You don't need to fight for more. Let other people play. It's like, working on a project and it's a hilarious scene and everybody else has laugh lines and I don't. And I remember one day sitting there going, but you're in the scene.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you though,
That's
took
huge.
Years, to understand. Don't be desperate to do everything.
How did you kind of deal with rejection in the earlier parts of your career? Do you know?
I still don't deal with rejection that great. No, it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, when I go to conventions,
yeah,
and inevitably people ask, what's your dream role?
Yeah.
And I've had a couple of things that I read for. And I'm not that guy who, I always wanted to do this and I got it. Which is kind of funny for somebody.
Because it has happened.
Well, it's happened plenty of times to other actors. But for instance, I was a teenager in the 1980s, but I wasn't a big fan of Transformers.
Yeah.
So when I played Optimus Prime, it's like I wasn't sitting there going, I'm playing Optimus Prime. I mean, I was sitting there going, I'm playing one of the most recognizable characters on the planet. That's pretty cool. I'm pretty honored, But it's like, look, I've done Donald Duck since I was 6 years old, or I should say, what I do sounds like Donald's cousin. It sounds like Donald's macho cousin. It's not in the right exact tone, to kind of fit. It's in the Duck family.
But you know what? They should create his cousin to show up on an episode.
But a friend of mine, Daniel Ross, who's one of the 3 voices of Donald for Disney, we were talking one day after he was allowed to finally discuss it. And he mentioned it, and I didn't mention that I did Donald, and he did it for about 4 seconds. And I sat there, and I wasn't even jealous that I didn't read for it because he was perfect.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? It feels good not to even sit there and go, why didn't I read?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if I read, because that's the guy they should have gone with.
Yeah.
Bam. But there have been a couple that I always wanted to do, that they read for it, and I read for it, and I didn't get it, and man, it crushed me. And the fact, one of them is a voice that I used to do at conventions all the time.
Oh.
and I just don't do it anymore. Because I had one person ask me, and just to have to say I read for it, I didn't even get a call back.
Yeah.
Was just crippling.
Yeah.
And then recently I started thinking about it, and it's like, you know what? My actual answer, because I used to say when I was younger, I'm Jewish and we're not supposed to get tattoos. Now I don't know if that's a real thing or if that's just pressure from Jewish mothers saying you're not supposed to. Either way, I said, okay, I'm not going to. Plus, I didn't know if there was anything I really wanted to commit to for my entire life and go, because
I'm the same way. I can't.
I had a teacher in high school who, because I'm that old, but he was in World War II. And so he had his World War II tattoos on his 60-year-old arm. No, I'm talking about Army tattoos. I'm talking about Navy tattoos. Oh, no, I've seen those.
Yes.
But they didn't have a choice on those. I'm talking about the people who, when they were 20, and they got the hula girl on the arm. I mean, really, I actually knew that guy. He was my drama teacher. And I looked at it on his aging leathery skin and went, that's not a look I want, So, but I said for a number of years that the one tattoo I'd be willing to get, because I wanted on my shoulder, on the back of my shoulder, so that if I wore a tank top at Venice, and a cute girl saw it, I'd say, "Oh, you like that character? That's me." It would have to be an original character that I played.
Nice.
So it's not like one of these things where it's like, no, you don't get it. No, well, no, or if everybody's got that tattoo.
Yeah.
No, I'm him. Yeah. Really. Like I go to conventions sometimes and people say, can you do an impression of Optimus Prime? And it's like, no, because I don't do an impression of Optimus Prime. I do Optimus Prime.
Optimus Prime,
not an impression.
Yeah.
Because I'm a stickler like that. I'm that kind of a-hole, and I'm sorry. But to come back around to the point I was making, my dream job has not been created yet.
Yeah.
My dream job is to create something. My dream job is to be Nancy Cartwright with Bart Simpson. My dream job is to be, is to be the, Frank Welker who created Freddy and played Freddy for 50 years.
Yeah.
I mean, my dream job is to originate the role. That's my dream.
I'm curious, you had mentioned when you're looking at the script, you see the pictures play out in front of you from your imagination. When they give you, say, character art for a cartoon, are you imagining that character moving across the page? Or are you imagining yourself as the character and like the environment around you? Is it more of like a first person or third person kind of perspective? Both? Yes.
There are times that it's first person. There's times when it's third person. It's like, well, what would it be like to have those hands?
Yeah.
What would it be like to have those lips? I mean, you gotta make a decision sometimes. I mean, if you get character art, and like sometimes you get a script and the script doesn't fit the character art because those words wouldn't be coming out of that mouth.
Interesting. Oh, okay.
So sometimes you say, okay, who do I mentally have to be that odd-looking character who would still say that stuff? Okay.
That's tricky.
And so you physically have that impairment or impediment or physicality or whatever, and then you still have that interior, because it's like, for instance, Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci's this tiny little guy, with his little voice. But when he's getting in somebody's face, no, you say I'm funny. No. How is it? No, tell me how I'm funny. Tell me how I'm funny. And you watch Ray Liotta, and there are times in that scene that he's listening to the voice and he's laughing, but then he's listening to the words and looking at the eyes and going, oh, this is not working out well. Okay, because I've got a choice here. I can either disrespect the man and listen to the timbre of the voice and go, yeah, whatever. Or I can listen to the tone.
Yeah.
Or I can look at those eyes.
Oh, no.
And, that's why, that's the brilliance of that scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's not only Joe Pesci, but also, this other human being's reaction and confusion over how to handle it.
Yes.
And so if that and I believe that those guys exist in this world, and I mean, look, I think we've all heard from the brilliant scientists who have a lisp, but they have the scientific knowledge to impart to the people, and you have two choices. You can either go, he's lisping, he's stupid.
Or you can honor
you can
him.
look at the PhDs that he has, or listen to the information and go, oh, right, maybe that's why he became a scientist, because people were making fun of his lisp and he didn't go into the public arena and he always buried his head in the books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and in a sense, it's honoring people with lisps too, because it's not making them like comic fodder. It's making them intelligent.
Absolutely. But I'm also talking about, I see these, that's what cracks me up sometimes when I get the feedback that some of the things that I do are cartoony, and I'll sit there and go, but I saw that guy on CNN.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's just it's a matter of interpretation.
Yeah.
Because like you could absolutely have those lines. What am I, a clown? No, tell me. No, you say I'm funny. No, you tell me. You tell me. How am I funny? Okay, you get that scene and you audition with it. And the guy's a monster, he's giant.
Yeah.
And then you audition with, no, you tell me. No, seriously. No. I want to know. How am I funny? How am I funny? Am I a clown? Do I amuse you? Mm-hmm. And there are times that you'll make that choice and somebody will sit there and go, wow, that is wrong. Mm-hmm. And then there are times that people go, I never thought of that. And they're captivated by it. I mean, I keep learning about our art. Is
that how you think you book like winning auditions, is coming at it from an angle that probably...
I have no idea. Because I'm thoroughly convinced, and I say this to my students because they'll ask sometimes, should I put what they want as my first take? Or should I put, if I have an original idea, should I put that first? And I say yes. Mm. Because with me... I describe myself as, if I'm walking around the Rose Bowl and there's a single pile of dog poo somewhere in the stadium, I will step in it. I will find it. That's my luck. I find a way to mean well and say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Ask about somebody's mom 2 days after they passed away, just whatever it is. I have an uncanny knack of doing that. But I tell people, you're gonna put your original take first on the day that the casting person's sitting there going, why can't anyone do what I want? Why can't anyone just do what I ask for? And then there are gonna be days you're gonna put your doing what they ask for take on there first, and that's going to be the day they sit there and goes, and they'll say, doesn't anybody have an original thought in their head? There are things that you do and you try, and you never know what's gonna. Sue Blue used to say, voiceovers about selection, not rejection.
Yeah, I love that line.
And that's the way you got to deal with it. I just read for something and was supposed to, read for both characters in the scene, and it was a quick little scene. Mm-hmm. And I've never done this before, but this time I did both characters at the same time.
Oh, switching back and forth in your head. That's always challenging.
I could, once I figured out who I needed to be for each one, because the personalities were clearer within the lines, but on my last take, I did Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Yeah.
not a dead on, but
No.
along those lines.
Yeah.
You know, so one character was like this, and the other character was like this, basically.
Yeah.
So, because they describe them as a pair that go together
Yes.
and whatever. And not as my first take. And I ended the take with, just in case they didn't get what I put there.
Yeah.
You know, but I could certainly see them going, you know, that was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun. And going with it. And I could see them going, well, that doesn't fit our game.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't fit our project.
But they'll remember you.
Maybe they will, maybe they won't.
Okay.
You know, it's like, I certainly also believe in the idea that when you're auditioning for something, don't just audition for that one role.
Yeah.
Okay? Be open to, well, I thought I was auditioning for Han Solo. I won't accept Luke Skywalker. Be open
To accepting either.
Yeah, they sit there and go, you know, we were listening to you and we weren't getting so much macho anti-hero as much as we were getting innocent farm boy, and I think you'd be perfect in that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, be open to that. I mean, especially when you're auditioning for video games that'll have hundreds of characters. You know? I mean, I try to draw a target. I try to draw a circle and kind of say, anything you want in between is available. I booked a video game once and went in there and asked them to play the reference, and they didn't have it. And they pulled up the script and they said, you know, but this is your scene. What do you think you did? And I said, well, for something like this, a regular guy, I'd have given you two different versions. I'd have given you 165 pounds, and I'd have given you 260. And on the spot, I swear to you, the guy said, today we're going to do 165. I'm going to bring you back next week to do something else at 260.
Wow. So you just got yourself another job right there.
Well, because to me, I mean, you know, it's like I've been doing that for so long that to me, those are both real regular guys. And then there's me in the middle.
Yes.
You
You
know?
have a very wide range. You've done characters that are
like-
super high pitched and also super deep booming voice.
I like to think so. I mean, I grew up in an era when I thought that was supposed to be my job. I thought I was supposed to be able to do as many dialects as possible. I thought I was supposed to be able to sound like I was from different countries. I was different races. I was different sizes. I thought that was supposed to be my job. And so
this is when you were first starting in voiceover?
even before that.
Even before that.
That was
okay.
when I was doing theater.
Ah, okay.
You know, I mean, I was the kid who, when I got cast in the musical, would pick up the script, and by the time I got to the end of the script, the character had a voice.
Okay.
You know, I played all the old man roles, which is why I'm like looking at busting the rust off the hinges and maybe getting back on stage, because like, oh, now, see, I go back to my high school reunions and people say, you look just like you did in high school. It's like, no, that's because you remember me in the old man makeup.
Oh, that's funny, actually.
All the places I used to draw the lines in, the lines actually are now.
That's funny.
And, you know, I mean, back before I had the full head of white hair, when it was just on the sides, it's like, no, that's where I used to put the white in my hair. That's why I look the same.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm going to be 53 next week. And, you know, one of the characters I played when I was a teenager was Fagin in Oliver. And Fagin sings this song where he looks back over his life, you know, and we always think of Fagin as being this old man. And he's singing about reviewing the situation. And one of the verses starts, what happens when I'm 70? Must come a time. 70? So it's got to be from a point that's distant enough that it's still out far enough away. He's not singing it at 65. And so I was sitting there the other day going, he was probably like 52. Oh, you know, that's when you sit there and you watch, I mean, I'm Jewish. I watch Fiddler on the Roof and go, I'm 10 years older. I'm 15 years older than Tevye probably was.
Yeah.
Because Tevye lived in a society where people got married off at 16, 18, 20, And in one of the songs, he talks about, meeting his wife on their wedding day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, so he was young. I'm sure they got right to it. And they've got a daughter who's getting married in the course of the show. So maybe tops, this guy's 40. Okay, you could stretch it 44, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
And it's like, when that starts like slapping you around, all these characters that you grew up thinking as being like old. Sure, because then later on when they had Zero Mostel do the revival and he's in his 60s, or Topol, or any of the other actors who are playing it, they're in their 60s and they got the gray beard, but it's like when you break down the text, that doesn't add up. And so it's like I go, but aside from my creaky knee, I swear I still feel like the 16-year-old.
Yeah. Hey, that's good though.
I
think oftentimes when actors try to portray older characters, like even if they say they're 60, your voice print is still pretty similar at 60. It's more so if you're like really, really old and you're like smoking a lot that your voice is gonna maybe do that more, like.
It depends because you will hear people. If you listen, you will hear some people in their 80s that still will sound like this.
Yeah, exactly.
There's barely any age on the throat or whatever. And Carl Reiner has sounded the same since the 1950s.
Oh, yeah.
Which
is good for voice actors because you can have a very long career.
Well, look, Wilford Brimley, who looked like he was 80 years old when he did Cocoon, was younger than Marissa Tomei when she was Aunt May in Spider-Man. Okay, it's like, wouldn't be a bad thing to have a 35-year career of playing 80-year-olds.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like, all right, I'd figure out a way to deal with it,
Yeah. No, I'm curious.
Sophia on Golden Girls was the youngest one in the cast. You know that, right?
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the actress who played Sophia was the youngest member of the cast.
I would not have known that.
She was genius.
Yes. It's true.
All right. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're making me think about theater. And I've often heard, at least for beginning voice actors, if they have a lot of theater experience, when they go into the mic, they have this problem to continue their theater voice.
Absolutely they do. I used to teach voiceover at the American Musical and Dramatic Academy in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And the first, literally like the first couple of weeks were about breaking down the theater voice, breaking down the projection. Now, it's not as bad now that everybody wears those stupid mics on their forehead or on their cheek and nobody has to project anymore. No, I'm talking about in theater.
Oh, yes. Yes, you're right. They have those little tiny, yes.
They used to have the widow's peak mic that used to be here. Now it like droops all the way down to their nose.
I know what you're talking about.
And it's like, oh my God, nobody projects anymore. But yes, a lot of it was about pulling that energy back.
Yeah.
I tell this fake story about, and it takes place in New York, and it's this actor's bar, fictional actor's bar, and this stage actor and this film actor, having a drink, and the stage actor says to the film actor, "Oh, that's so cute, what you do with your gotta get coverage. Oh, we'll fix it in post. Hey, we'll catch it in ADR, and how you do 87 takes, ooh, that's acting." And then the film actor, says to the stage actor, "Oh, that's so adorable. The way you talk so loud so that somebody can hear you in the back of the house. Like no two people would actually talk. Or the way that you stand next to each other and have an intimate conversation in a way no two human beings doing anything other than waiting for an elevator would ever stand next to each other. Mm-hmm. That's cute." Or you have 4 people on one side of a round table. That's so adorable. Or how you keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
That's so adorable how you think that's acting. And then the voiceover actor comes in and says, "Oh, you two with your props and costumes." That's like, I mean,
all three mediums are acting.
they're all pretend. They're all
Yes.
pretend. It's like, do you do Meisner? Do you do Stanislavski? Which technique is right? Yes.
Yeah.
I always come back to the story from Marathon Man with Laurence Olivier and Dustin Hoffman. And they're trying to do the tooth drilling scene. If you haven't seen Marathon Man, see it. Brilliant actors from different generations. And Dustin Hoffman's just not able to get the pain of the scene. He's not able to really portray the pain of the moment. And as legend has it, it took a long time to get this scene. And Olivier eventually got so frustrated and said, "Why don't you try acting, dear boy?"
I've heard that quote.
Okay. And to me, that says, why don't you try pretending? Instead of trying to feel it, instead of trying to be it, why don't you pretend? Why don't you pretend that you are?
Mm-hmm.
I believe that
it's not method.
I believe acting is just the highest form of pretend known to man.
Yeah.
I live by the notion that when you're 5 years old and you're going outside with a red towel and a safety pin, that an adult has to tell you, you cannot fly. Your brother broke his arm 3 years ago. You can't fly. Okay? Don't get up on the roof. Do not get up on the roof. You can't fly. And then life beats that out of us where we go, yeah, I know I can't fly. I know.
Yeah.
Voiceover is where we get to fly if we know how to do it right.
Yeah. If you can imagine it.
Because to be able to, I think to do it well, you have to either imagine it or have that muscle so well developed that you can approximate it enough to fool people.
Yeah.
When you're doing a movie or a TV show, you might have the prop in your hand. You might have the suit on. You might have the costume. Even if you're doing a CG fest, hopefully there are other actors who are there with you
that you can play off of.
You're doing something from the MCU. You look over and you see the other actors, and even though you're all wearing your motion capture suits, you're still there. And there's something about wearing the mocap suit that at least gives your body the approximation of wearing the super suit or whatever it is.
Yeah.
We don't get that in voiceover. We're alone in a box.
Mm-hmm. You don't even know who your cast is half the time either.
There is that. But if you do it right, if you're in touch with that 5-year-old, then when you voice Superman, you are Superman.
That's awesome.
Because you have Superman's heart and you have Superman's soul, And so the most recent thing I've been telling my students is, statistically speaking, the world is 7.4 billion people. When it all is said and done and we get to the final score and we're tabulating all the statistics, we figure out, wow, in the grand scheme of things, 50 women got to play Wonder Woman, in something official. 100 women got to play Wonder Woman in a cartoon, in a TV series, in a video game, and whatever. Now, as one individual actor, that sounds like a lot. But you look at, of all the people that ever existed on the planet, which is like, 13 billion people, it's pretty small. So if 100 got to play her and 10,000 got to read for that role, 10,000 still pretty infinitesimally small in the history of the planet. Celebrate that.
Yeah.
If you got that copy and you got the chance to read for that,
That's huge in and of itself.
celebrate it. Don't ignore that. Don't gloss over it.
Mm-hmm.
And in those 3 minutes that you're recording, in those 5 minutes that you're recording, in those 15 minutes that you're in the booth, be Wonder Woman.
Nice.
Be Batman. Let the 5-year-old inside of you high five the 50-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Just come alive and be the character.
Yeah. And give yourself in your journey, give yourself that credit. Because in the grand scheme of things, I mean, if you go back to your hometown and tell somebody you're disappointed that you didn't get to be Batman, that you only got to audition for it, they'll sit there and go,
You got to
"Wait a
audition
second.
for it? Yeah.
You auditioned for Batman?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't discount yourself.
Yeah.
Don't steal that potential joy. It shouldn't always be about what's going in our bank accounts. Now, I understand we all have bills, and trust me, I'd much rather be living in a house up on the hill in Sherman Oaks than living in an apartment down on the valley floor in Sherman Oaks,
Mm-hmm.
where I do live.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like I was telling you earlier, I'm putting together a one-man show about a successful life in the middle.
Yeah.
You know, because not everybody's Brad Pitt.
No, there's
You
very
know?
few Brad Pitts.
And yet there are people here in Hollywood that have careers where we've seen them for decades and we recognize their face, possibly know their name, maybe know a line that they delivered,
Yeah.
you know? And that, for those of us who have ever struggled to try to make this happen, you know, I mean, I tip my cap to those men and women who have managed to do that.
Yes.
You know, it's not easy. And for crying out loud, especially when you're talking about something that, take away the bills and I do it for free.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, if you take away the fact of paying bills, I don't know how many people would still want to do their job.
Well, that's the thing. They say if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Oh, that's not true. I work my ass off, but I work my ass off to get the job. You know,
Yeah.
the struggle for us is getting the work. The work is the reward. You know, so on the one hand, I work to get the work, but when I get the work, I relax.
Yeah. Now, getting the work, you seem like you're very good at impressions.
There are much better people here in town. As a matter of fact, I was a kid, and that's how I grew up, was doing impressions.
Okay.
Okay, and I did lots of impressions as a kid. And then the children's musical theater I was with did a fundraising night. And I was one of the performers in one of the performing groups. But the headliner of the night was Mel Blanc.
Oh, wow.
And I think I was 16 or 17. And I got like 5 minutes with him.
Yeah.
He's like, "Mr. Blank, this is Neil Kaplan. He's an impressionist. He does voices like you do." You know? And I got to talk to him, and he said, "Impressions are for hacks, kid.
Wow.
Original characters. Original characters." And when God talks to you, you listen.
Yeah.
And I literally, like, that day gave up discovering impressions. I mean, you stumble into them or you do them, you know. And there are ones like I did Gene Simmons' voice for a video game, and that was one of the only times in my life that I've ever actually gone to an audition, and they have a recording of the person that they want you to sort of match or come close to, and So they had a tape of all 4 of the Kiss guys, and I listened to all 4 of them, and 3 of them didn't sync with me. And I listened to Gene Simmons of the rock band Kiss, and I listened to it, and I thought to myself, wait, that's Frank Sinatra cool combined with Neil Diamond kitsch. And so I just kind of shoved the 2 together, and I did this and booked the role. And interestingly enough, years later, I met Gene, and we talked about why that game wasn't successful. Yeah.
What was that like?
That's surreal.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, well, Gene, it was kind of ahead of its time. It was a choose your own adventure, and the artwork was polygonal and was kind of difficult to look at, and it wasn't really all that. I thought the story was great, but the art just didn't carry what. Oh, okay, cool. Thank you. And that was down at Comic-Con.
Do you think he knew the game, or do you think that he
was?
was?
Oh no, I think he was one of the producers.
Oh wow.
I think he was wondering why his investment didn't make as much as he had hoped, because he's a businessman above everything else.
Interesting.
But earlier in that day, I bumped into Matt Groening.
Wow.
And asked him if he would sign my little book, and he said, "Didn't I just sign for you?" I said, "No. You just recognize me because my best friend is one of your assistants and you see me at your office." "Why don't you ask me at the office?" And in my head I go, "'Cause it's your office?"
Yeah.
I'm going to do that. So he draws a Bart Simpson and he signs it. And so at the end of my conversation with Gene, and we're walking and we're talking. Well, the interesting thing was, I started talking to him because I saw a friend of mine who was his assistant. And at that time, she was a, 6 foot slender, 20-something Nordic blonde.
Yeah.
And we're talking. And I'm on one side, she's in the middle, he's on the other. And I see him out of the corner of my eyes. People come up asking for his autograph, and he's shunning them and shooing them away. But I feel this energy coming from him, like, "Excuse me, you're an American male. I'm Gene Simmons of the rock band Kiss, and you are paying no attention to me whatsoever. Is there a problem? What's going on here? This doesn't work out. You're American, right? You're an American male. I'm from Kiss." And so eventually, she picked up on it because, "Gene, I'm sorry. This is Neil Kaplan. He did your voice on Kiss Immortals," and he literally shoved her aside. And from that point forward, we're talking and she's over there. And so we get to the hotel where he's staying, and I'm staying at a different hotel. And he said, "It was really great talking to you. And I hate to impose, but would you mind signing this?" He's, "No, I'd be happy to." So I hand him the sketchbook.
Yeah.
And I handed it to him with the sketch up. And so I take it and I turn it over.
Yeah.
He takes it and turns it back over.
Does he sign all over it?
Draws a line between Bart's eyes. And my friend goes, "Gene!" He goes, No. He's going to love it. Trust me. He draws on the
kiss,
the devil, the makeup, around the eyes. He draws a big long tongue. The demon is what it is.
Yeah.
And he draws the demon makeup on Bart. He has a long tongue coming out of Bart's mouth and writes Bart Simmons and signs it. And so I literally have the only Bart Simmons as drawn by Matt Groening and Gene Simmons.
Oh, man.
And the only one on the planet. You want to talk statistically low.
Oh,
Bam.
yeah. There you go.
That is, yeah.
You could sell that on eBay for a lot.
I probably couldn't.
Really?
Because
people
there
think
would
it's
be
fake?
like no way to prove it.
That's
exactly.
true.
That's literally something that is priceless.
It's true. I hope it's hanging in your house.
Oh, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. I've got a couple of unique things. Another one is a couple of years ago, I was doing a convention with Stan Lee, and they're doing a tribute to Stan Lee. And the person who booked me on the show used to work with Stan and is friends with Stan. And so she gets me cut in the line to take a picture with him. And it's like just before I'm in the little studio and I'm about to go over, and there are a couple people in front of me, and they go, "Now remember, no hugging Stan, no touching Stan. I mean, at this point, he's 92, he's frail.
Yeah.
You don't want the enthusiasm to break any bones. You also don't need to be giving him any communicable diseases or anything.
And I think for anybody, any age, it's always kind of a consensual thing. Like, hey, are they letting you do this or no?
Sure. Well, yeah, there's always that consensual thing. But, most people, like me, and I don't know if I'm going to be doing hugging pictures at conventions anymore, but the last convention I did, we had crossed over into the knuckle bump era, I should say.
Okay.
No more handshaking.
Yeah.
But for a long time, my pictures have always been like hand around, and I make sure that my hands are visible. I make sure my hands are visible.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you got to understand people's enthusiasms. I mean, I've been on both sides of the table, so I tend to, I'm the guy who takes forever to sign a picture because I try to write a different phrase for everybody.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
Like you'll see some that I signed years ago that it looks like I wrote a novel.
Oh.
Which I sometimes look at now and go, that's actually kind of annoying.
No, I think that's nice. I did that in my yearbooks to just random people.
But that's a yearbook.
No, I don't even remember like those people anymore. I feel.
Oh, I know. No, absolutely. No, trust me. I crack my old yearbooks and go, apparently we were friends.
Hags. Have a great summer is what I got.
Cool. But, so I go up to Stan and I go, Stan, would you shrug with me? So I have a picture of me and Stan Lee going,
that's cute.
Yeah, it's two old Jews shrugging, and I got him to sign it, and I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. That's cool. He doesn't know why we're shrugging. I'm shrugging because what
why
else
not?
are we gonna do? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just it's wonderful.
Yeah. Now, when you go to these events, do you have tips for people on networking? Because there's definitely a way to do it and a way to not do it.
What type of events?
I don't know, like Comic-Con or...
Well, here's the thing. I mean, if I'm doing London Film and Comic-Con a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Who am I networking with?
I don't know.
No, but it's like the cast of Game of Thrones isn't going to get me on Game of Thrones.
No.
When I did Voltron, somebody posted, Zarkon, they obviously pitched him down and he's basically just a poor man's Keith David anyway.
Wow, that's rude.
See,
You don't take offense to that? That's good.
Are you kidding?
That
just tells me my versatility.
Ah.
That's like when all the people pointed out when I was introduced as Tychus Finley from StarCraft, and it was on pay-per-view around the globe, and people posted on message boards, "Who is that twerp?" At the time, I'm a 200-pound, 6-foot guy. I've shrunken down to 5'10", but I'm 200 pounds, 5'11"-ish. I don't think of myself as a twerp, but thanks for the compliment. Because obviously my character is 6'8", 380 pounds. And if you think I'm Michael Clark Duncan and then you're shocked by what you see, thank you.
Yeah.
So no, those aren't insults to me. Jiminy Christmas, what were we talking about before I got over to StarCraft? Oh, networking. So, and Keith David. So I go to London Film and Comic-Con, and one of the other guests is Keith David.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, would you I tell him the story, I take a picture. And so I tweeted that to the guy who wrote that. Yeah. I said, hello from London, from the real Keith David and the poor man's Keith David. I have no problem being the budget Peter Cullen.
Yeah.
Seriously, you can't afford Peter Cullen? I am available.
Yeah.
Cool by me. You think I'm the budget Keith David? I mean, the poor man's Keith David? Well, Keith David's friggin' brilliant, so thank you.
Yeah.
But I mean, what networking are you gonna do? I mean, if a director of a series is there, just be genuine.
Yeah.
Just connect with them. If something's meant to be, it's meant to be. There are people who are networkers and I'm just not that person. I don't know how to zero in. I don't know how to do the ask.
But see, the nice, refreshing thing about that, though, is it shows that you don't necessarily have to be that person to get a career in this. You just have to be talented and have fun, it sounds like.
There's an element of right place, right time. I mean, look, I often ask myself if one of the things that actually stands in my way of greater or more success is that I understand the statistical possibility that someone in this town can be brilliant, that they can be the final 5 choices in everything they read, but never be the one. And that doesn't mean they're not brilliant.
That's good to know. It's like if you're getting the call back, you know you're brilliant in and of itself.
Even if you don't get the call back, you have to sit
yourself.
there. You have to sit there and I think for your mental health, I think you have to sit there and understand I could be fantastic.
Yeah.
And they just went with somebody else.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I read for an on-camera thing. You know, it was for the show Dads on Fox. And they wanted a video game. It was about video game developers.
Okay.
So it was like they had a scene where one of the developers is talking to a voice actor in the booth, and I got the joke. I got the joke. You know, I got the audition through my voiceover agent. I went, you know, it was basically, you know, you shall not pass.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Dave, can you give us something? Hey, Dave, yeah? Can you give us something more wizardy? You shall not, and that wasn't the line, but I'm just so you know, you shall not pass. And I knew, because I actually got a call back. I went to Fox and made the writers in the room laugh.
Yeah.
You know, because I did, you shall not pass. Hey, Dave, yeah? Can you give us something more wizardy? You shall not pass. Because I knew that what they wanted was to see the versatility of the weirdos that do the voices. Okay? It's like you want to have a little nebbishy guy that has this big booming voice.
Yeah.
Or you want to have Scott Campbell from Armageddon, who's this 6'6" guy, weighs 280 pounds, and has this little voice.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
People like that dichotomy. Ha. I made them laugh. I did not get the job. I saw the episode. It was on Fox. You know who got the job?
Who?
Dan Castellaneta, the voice of Homer Simpson.
Oh.
Hello.
Yeah.
You know, and he nailed the jokes too.
Yeah.
I mean, because he is a comedian.
Yes.
He's done lots of stuff on camera without the funny voices.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, so it's like I saw it and just went, I never stood a chance.
But it's still an honor that you made them laugh.
Absolutely.
And you got to be in his graces.
And certainly there was a certain amount of closure in seeing the person that they chose and going, you know, it's like, I've had a few times that it's like I auditioned for something and I think my audition is nails. And then they went with Tim Curry. And it's like, well, duh. Hello. It's Tim Curry. Of course.
Yeah.
You know, or other, and I'm not knocking their celebrity. What it is with the celebrities a lot of times is people are so aware of their sound and they have that sound locked into their head that once they hear that performance and that sound and that performance match, that's what I always envisioned.
Yeah.
You know, you can't blame people for loving that.
Yeah.
You know, people ask me, do you resent, you know, celebrities doing voiceover? And it's like, well, when I was a kid, Disney very rarely ever made an animated film, and if they did, it was every few years.
Yeah.
In 2019, there were 32 films submitted for Best Animated Picture consideration. 32 films.
It's huge.
I was
You were
involved in
part
two of them.
Yeah, you were.
I was involved in two of them, and it's like, you know, maybe if we didn't have celebrities, maybe there would have only been 12 or 15.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's a
maybe the
catch-22.
celebrities are actually giving us more opportunities.
It could be the technology too, but hey,
I think it's a little bit of I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit of both, you know. Show me the film that had the non-recognizable stars that did as well as Shrek.
Yeah.
Okay? Maybe Mike Myers' name brought people in, but I'll guarantee you that if the performances didn't work, there wouldn't have been a 2, 3, and 4.
Oh, it was a funny movie.
And it was brilliant, and it was brilliantly performed.
Yes.
I mean, you know, I've seen fans sit there and say, "Well, you didn't audition everyone," you know, on Twitter, you know, or at a convention, and my response is usually, "Yeah, we didn't have the time to audition 7 billion people."
Yeah.
I mean, there was that one movie that did, but by the time they got to the callbacks, everyone they auditioned had died. You can't audition everyone. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So, is there anyone on the planet Earth who would have been better as Dory than Ellen DeGeneres? Maybe.
Yeah, but the movie was still great.
She was brilliant.
Yeah.
And my contention is, maybe you do interview 7 billion and not find the better one.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you interview 400,000 people and find somebody who's just as good. Maybe. Mm-hmm. But you can't argue. I will not argue with someone who's well cast like that. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Most of the time in these Disney and these Pixar movies, they are well cast.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
you cry watching Pixar movies.
Who
Come
would
on.
be better than Samuel L. Jackson as Frozone? Okay, it's not out there. Mm. You know, so why would I sit there and be jealous? Why would I be jealous of Craig T. Nelson as Mr. Incredible? Because he was perfect.
Yeah. Well, now, you had mentioned the Academy Awards, and you were in Klaus. Yeah. Do you mind talking about that audition experience? Do you remember what that was like?
I have no idea what that audition experience was like.
You just got called in?
I probably was in my closet, laid down the lines, sent it in, or I read it in the booth.
Yeah.
At my agent's office.
Yeah.
I mean, I rarely, unless there's something extraordinary about the audition, I rarely remember the audition. I do remember the session.
Okay.
And it was incredibly short.
Really?
And I was sitting there like, do you have any? I could do more. I could do other things. I could do other people in your crowd. I could give you more village people. I mean, do you need
the village people?
Yeah, well, no, the other ones. I can do those
kidding.
too.
I know. I'm kidding.
But yeah, because it's like I'm like the happy show dog, you know. So when I get the chance to play, it's like, got anything else?
Yeah.
You know, it's like I'm the horrible one when it comes to enforcing. You know, you only get 3 voices. You know.
Yeah.
They ask for a 4th, and it's not a line that really matters. I have been known to sit there and go, it's not like it's going to impact anything that huge. Or I worked on something with a friend who was directing, and it was an anime. It was a union anime, and I'm doing a voice, and when I came in, they were finishing a looping session. And I noticed they didn't finish. And so when I got done with my stuff, I mean, there's still time on the clock. I said, do you need me to get any of the people in the crowd? And he went, really? I said, technically you paid for 3 voices.
Yeah.
And you got me on the clock. I mean.
That's cool.
You need it.
Yeah.
I'm happy to help. But I also enjoy when I can be two people in the crowd either yelling at each other or talking to each other because, like, not a lot of people can do that. So, I mean, it's fun.
Yeah.
But, I mean, look, Klaus, one of the greatest things about Klaus was, and it came back later, it came rushing back to me when I heard the lines I did. Because it was funny because I'm watching the movie and at first I'm going, oh, okay. And I thought I played somebody else. But then I'm listening going, no, that's not me. That's close. No, that's J.K. Simmons. They got him to do an additional character. That's J.K. That's not me. And the really funniest thing about it was that's who my wife thought.
That's even funnier.
Yeah, she got it wrong. But then when my character appeared and said his lines, I go, no, that was me. Yeah, that was me. So
awesome.
And I did, it was a fun line, when the two clans are meeting. I haven't told anybody this, but it's when the two clans are meeting and they're discussing what they're gonna do, about all the happiness and joy that's going on is ruining their feud, And so Joan Cusack is pointing out all these things that are happening because she's on the other side and I'm an Elling bow. And so I'm this giant guy in the back and I say, and brunches, don't forget about the brunches. And then they keep talking at the end of the scene. I'm off camera. Don't forget about the brunches.
I love recall jokes.
But that character was imbued with so much anger and joy at the same time that it's like once I heard it, I go, oh, that's right. Oh, that was so much fun. That was such a fun session. And I was out of there in no time. Mm-hmm. Like I did an episode of this one animated thing which hasn't seen the light of day yet, that I literally knew the executive producer, who was a friend of mine, knew the director. They directed me on a few things, and fan of my work. Knew the casting director, also a fan of my work. Didn't get anything. Didn't get anything. While later, I asked my friend, the showrunner on it. I said, now, I'm not putting you on the spot, but I have a rare opportunity here because you're the showrunner.
Yeah.
Can you tell me why I didn't book anything? And he basically said, you were my choice for the villain. So it's like, wait, I always thought the executive producer, the showrunner, got what they wanted. It's like, nope.
Wow.
Learn something new every day. So someone else higher up in the food chain said, nice idea, but no.
Wow.
So I went in and did one scene, 2 lines, 2 little mini jokes. We did 2 takes and I was done.
Wow.
I made the director laugh. Both takes. I nailed both jokes.
Nice.
Felt great. Never went back and did another episode. Haven't worked with any of those people since. Okay.
But hey, that's what it's like living in the middle, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and do you give into those mental pressures of trying to find out why? Especially if that, or when somebody says to you, I love your work. I work with you as often as I can. Mm-hmm. Why doubt that?
Exactly.
And yet there are people who will say, they might be lying to you. Might be that Hollywood thing where they're just telling you, oh, I love you, babe. It's like I say the difference between New York and LA, and I don't know if it's necessarily as true anymore, but in New York, you know what people say when they don't like you?
They don't like you?
I don't like you.
Yeah.
You in LA, when people don't like you, and you know what they say?
Oh, it's nice working with you.
We have to work together.
Oh.
because everybody in LA wants to hedge their bets just in case.
Oh, okay.
It's like Saturday nights in LA. Everybody pencils things in. Nothing's in ink until it's high enough up on the food chain.
I know people like that, yes.
We all do.
Yeah.
We all do. I would love to pencil you in for Saturday night, but if I do get invited to Quentin Tarantino's house, I'm going to cancel.
Yeah.
I mean, we understand the penciling in a lunch thing Monday through Friday because it's like, well, let's pencil, like you and I, we penciled this in, but hopefully one of us is going to get a job.
Yeah.
That's a different sort of penciling it in.
Exactly.
That's Monday through Friday during studio hours. That's different.
That's understandable.
Than I'm going to pencil you in just in case I can get into a Q&A somewhere. Just in case I can get into a meet and greet or a small, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I know we had things planned for months, but you don't understand. This is an Academy event.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, it is what it is, but I've come to a point where I no longer blame people. I understand.
Yeah.
How often are the opportunities going to arise? It's like I try to leave my weekends open for my wife. Like I had an audition that was due at 10:30 Monday morning. I didn't do it during the weekend until after my wife went to sleep.
Yeah. That's nice.
That's her time. But on Saturday this week, I took a class on motion capture. Every now and then I do have to say, honey, our lives will be better served if I can learn a little bit about motion capture and transfer some of what I already know how to do in the video game world
into the physical.
Right, over there. Possibly, maybe I can start booking some of this work.
Nice.
It's
cool to hear that someone as established as you, who's been in Star Wars, amongst other things, is still taking classes to, better your career.
I look, this past weekend, I was a lecturer on Friday night for the Voiceover network. They had an event here in LA, Get Your Game On. It was focused on video game acting. And I'm literally doing a talk, like a TED talk, a half-hour talk, and 5 directors that I had worked with were in the room listening. And I can't think of a greater compliment than the fact that occasionally, or for the most part, they stopped talking over at their table and listened to what I had to say. It was like, oh, maybe I do know what I'm talking about.
Nice.
So I'm lecturing. I'm talking to other actors who are coming from on camera or starting their voiceover career or are successful in, commercial work but are trying to transition over or whatever.
Yeah.
So Friday night I'm the expert. Saturday I'm the student.
Wow.
And I tweeted that out because I want people to know if they're going to study from me or if they're going to hire me, that I actively still try to learn.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole thing I was telling you about really celebrating the moment, and when you're auditioning for a character, don't audition for the character, be the character. And celebrate the fact that in the grand scheme of the history of the planet, you are this you are walking on this tiny little snowflake of people that had that opportunity. I just realized that a couple months ago.
Yeah.
I'm 34 years in on my career. I'm happy to say I'm still learning.
That's awesome.
I did work I did some ADR on a video game, and we were all like on a rail, reading off of the screen far away. And the 2 guys to my right, I could tell from their energy, were newer. The guy to my left, somebody I've known for 20, 25 years, has done a lot of animation. We're wearing the caps, and we've got a little ball on our forehead. The guy to my left who's been doing animation forever is having a tough time adjusting to the whole notion of, wait, there's no target for me to aim my voice at. There's no ball. I'm confused. The guys over to my right, not necessarily the best actors I've ever worked with. Another moment where I said, yeah, but maybe that's the exact sound they want for this background.
Yes.
Some people sound a little more awkward in life. So, Neil, maybe they're perfect. Shut up. But also it was the technology changes. There's going to be a moment when, you know, this person who's just been doing this for a couple of years, I'm working with, who's kicking my ass.
Yeah.
You know, who's got a better handle on it. You know, it's like I'm doing this workshop on Saturday. And when the workshop started, I was the awkward old man. You know, a lot of these people in their 20s with stunt experience and dancers and very physical. Who's this flabby dude over here with the white hair? You know, but the guy who's running it knows my credits. And so at one point we're doing this thing that it's filmed and we slate. And so he asks a little bit of our background. And so he asks my video game background. And so I listed some of the games that I've been in and a couple of the characters that I played. And then all of a sudden, like a bunch of the people in the room, I couldn't get out of there when we were done with the class. I had to spend an extra hour answering questions, you know, saying a line or two, you know, but it's like, you know,
something to be grateful for. People.
Oh, it's certainly gratitude, and I've seen plenty of people who grumble about it and say, "Well, that's not what I'm here to do," and walk out. But that in and of itself was sort of a networking opportunity.
Oh yeah.
Because here are people who are established somewhere else. Because this was the staff of the class who was like all of a sudden, oh well, let me, you know. As a matter of fact, I'm probably going to end up teaching a class
because of it. Awesome.
People ask me a lot if I teach. I love to teach. I hate putting together a class. I hate trying to sell a class.
Yeah.
Especially here in LA.
Where there's hundreds of classes.
Not only hundreds of classes, but a lot of really good teachers and a lot of really good classes. A lot of really good workshops.
Yeah.
You know? And then stuff out of town, it's like, I don't know that I want to put out that effort.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like there was a group that I worked with on Friday night. They're all from the Bay Area. So one of them tweeted at me, and I said, hey, I notice you're a part of a gang. Why don't you and your gang have me up there, and we'll do a private workshop. I don't have to worry about we'll find the studio together. You know, they'll either find most of the people or just say, you know, it's like basically rent me out.
Nice.
You know, I love to teach. I discover things when I teach.
Yeah.
You know, I learn about our art.
From others, yeah.
From watching other people put things into play.
Nice.
I've also been a big proponent the last couple of years when I go to conventions and people ask me about voiceover. It struck me one day, I sat there and said, why is it that voiceover is the only art form under the sun that people seem to think the only way you can do it is professionally?
Yeah, that is interesting.
You know, if you want to paint, you go to Michael's and you get a canvas and a frame, you stretch the canvas and you paint. You don't sit there and go, I would love to paint, but I'm not going to until I have a gallery show. Okay?
Yeah. You
want to act, you go to the local community theater. You can be a dentist and not give up your life and come to Hollywood. You know, you can, you know, I've got friends up in the Bay Area who've been playing together in a you know, a group. You know, they've been playing for so long, they actually have professional gigs.
Nice.
That's not how they make their living.
Yeah. But it's how
But
they...
I'll guarantee you, when they're playing to a bar full of people, they are just as legitimately musicians as The Edge and Bono playing to 120,000 people in a sold-out arena or to a filled Central Park.
Awesome.
Okay? When hands slap together in gratitude, applause is applause is applause is applause. Mm-hmm. So why in the world, if you claim that you like voiceover, why do you think that the only way to do it is to go to Texas and do anime, or come to LA and do video games or animation, or go to New York and do commercial work or audiobooks? Mm-hmm. You want to do voiceover? Go to the Braille Institute and read an audiobook and act it out for the people who might not be able to have access to World According to Garp because it's not in Braille.
Or find a local elementary school, partner with administration, see if you can go in and read stories to kids.
Or there's this little thing I've heard of called the internet.
Yeah.
And you can put stuff on there. I grew up listening to these things called radio shows. Now, I may every now and then still call it a radio show, and even though it's on the internet or on satellite, it's not really a radio show.
Yeah, but it's a radio show.
But why don't you do your own Lake Wobegon days? Mm-hmm. Why don't you get some of your other friends who also want to be voice actors and voice act?
Yeah.
Don't worry about making money. And so
it could be a podcast. Yeah.
Do a podcast, record it, put it up somewhere. For all you know, in this gigantic world of 7 billion some odd people, maybe you find 120 people around the globe who listen to it and like it. And how cool is that?
Yeah.
It used to be when I was young, you wrote a book, you had to convince Penguin Publishing that you were worth 3 inches of shelf space.
Yeah.
Okay, at Barnes & Noble. And they would say, nah, you're not. I can't get rid of our best-selling authors for you. Mm-hmm. And the internet has changed that. And this became really, really illustrated for me with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Because I worked on it when it was non-union, then I worked on it when it went union. And for a couple of years, I got residual checks. And it was cool. Hey, wow. Then those disappeared because there was no more room on the shelf at Target for the VHS tapes for Power Rangers, Lightspeed Rescue. Okay, all right. Then one day I went down to my mailbox and it was filled with checks. Now, granted, none of them were for more than $12.
Okay.
But none of them were for less than $3 either.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, yeah, it added up the first few times. It was nice.
I'm sure the bank loved helping you that day.
In this town, they're used to it, you know?
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, I realized that the shelf at Netflix is infinite. Mm-hmm. So people have now found that Power Rangers is on Netflix and they're watching it or they're showing their kids.
Nice.
Wow. So you're telling me I don't need to find 100 people in Sherman Oaks that will buy what I'm selling to get the shelf space at Target. You're telling me I just have to find a dozen people around the world.
Mm-hmm. It's not bad at all.
So now people who have books to write can self-publish.
Oh, yeah.
10,000 people buy your book. 10,000 people in a world of 7 billion, you're nobody. You just wrote a book that 10,000 people read.
Yeah.
So there's this counterbalance. It's this thing that I thought of a couple of years ago. Whenever you're trying to be popular, understand you will always be more unpopular than you are popular. And I will statistically prove that to you. Avengers Endgame sold more, has made more money at the box office than any other movie ever made.
Yes.
Okay? Let's say it's 2.8 billion. Mm-hmm. Let's say that every movie ticket that was sold to a separate person. So nobody went to see it more than twice or more than once, which we know is not true. Everybody only saw it once, and each ticket only cost $1. Mm-hmm. Now You and I live in LA where there
No,
are
it's
theaters
more.
here. There are theaters here that are $20 and up. Okay. But for the sake of making it fair, every ticket was only $1. So they sold 2.8 billion tickets.
That's not even half the population.
So is it more popular or less popular?
Less.
Less. So when you realize that the most popular film of all time is more unpopular than it is popular, suddenly you stop worrying about it.
Yeah.
You know, you got to stop worrying about making a song, writing a song that'll appeal to everybody, and just write a song that works for you.
Nice.
And if it's honest and it's out there, I think people will find it.
It's sure.
You know?
Absolutely.
And maybe you
And
won't.
it's what you wanted to do.
And maybe you won't get nominated for a Grammy, but at some point, as an artist, you know, it's like, I was in London a couple of weeks ago doing a convention, and this woman came up to me and raved about my audiobooks.
You're like, what?
And I was like, I did not expect that.
Yeah.
And rather than shut her down with my being slightly uncomfortable or whatever,
Yeah.
I just let her go, let her gush, enjoyed the warm feeling of somebody enjoying something that I did that much. I mean, that took years. I used to shut that down. Oh no, that's nice. Thank you. But let people have their genuine emotions.
Yeah.
You know, and at the same time, it's okay that you've never won a Grammy, Neil, for your audiobooks. It doesn't mean people didn't enjoy them.
Yeah.
It's okay that you're not a best-selling narrator. It's okay that you're not famous for this. It's okay that you don't live up on the house on the hill. Don't negate this person saying they liked what you did.
Yeah.
You
Be
know?
humble.
Humble, appreciative, accepting,
be a
open.
human. Yeah.
Yeah, you know. But sometimes somebody being humble denies somebody else their opportunity to worship.
Yeah.
You know,
I
oh
know what you're
no,
saying.
I'm not worthy.
I get what you're saying.
You
Yeah.
know, so sometimes you don't want to.
You don't want to shun. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is that balance where it's like you're, you know, and my natural default is self-deprecation. You know, so I'll sit there and say, well, obviously they couldn't find anybody better that day.
Oh.
You know, but that's negating somebody else's joy.
Yeah.
And so I save that self-deprecation for, you know, people who I love, who I would otherwise verbally bitch slap.
There you go.
The people who understand, hopefully.
Well, that's it for our show today.
Oh,
if you guys
Jesus.
wanted to be verbally bitch slapped by Neil Kaplan,
Thank
you
you.
can follow him
What a thing to end on.
on Twitter. What would be your Twitter account?
Kneecap. I wanted to make it as simple to remember.
It's like an actual kneecap,
no,
that spelling?
No, like Neil Kaplan.
Oh.
N-E-K-A-P.
Oh, okay. Okay.
N-E-K-A-P.
Got you.
So you see, it only takes up seven spaces.
Smart.
The at, the 5 for kneecap, and then the one that's after.
There you go.
Because when it first started and you had the limitations, like
It was very restrictive.
I want people to be able to write as much as they can.
Well, that's why it took me forever to get a Twitter account, truthfully. I was like, what
am I gonna
28
use?
characters? I don't know. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, thank you everyone for watching. I'm Christy Kate. This is Neil Kaplan. Have a great day. And again, this is going to be dedicated to James Lipton.